What's up, YouTube? Welcome back, guys, to another CompTIA video. First of all, I want to apologize for taking so long to make this. Actually, I caught COVID and, it wasn't fun. I'm not going to get into it, but, it wasn't fun times, guys. I'm back, feeling better. It's a little after the holidays. Not a fun fact, but I did record this already, and I did not like it, It's because I was sick, I had nothing going on. I didn't explain things very well. All right, so yeah, before we get into this video, guys, let's actually go ahead and do a practice quiz for my last topic. I know it's been a while, but you guys could, if you want to answer these, just be a good, refresher. So first question, guys, is what type of connection is this? This right here. So I'm gonna give you guys a few seconds to answer the question. Pause the video if you have to. Correct answer. If you chose D, you are correct. 3.55 millimeter. TRS here stands for tip ring sleeve. And this type of connection here is called 3.5 millimeter. So let me go ahead into the explanation. The way I like to think about it, to easily tell what's going on here, is whatever is encased between these two black separators. So here's a black separator, and then here's another black separator. Whatever is between these guys is a ring. So, so TRS stands for tip ring sleeve. So in this case, this one is a tip ring sleeve, so that's TRRS. This one is just a TS. The correct answer actually for this question was tip ring sleeve. That is because it only has one ring. As you can see, there's only one section that's encased between two black separators. So there's one ring, guys. Easy way to remember it. Just a quick fun fact. If you wanted to remember this fact, this one is mono audio only. I don't know why I did that scribble. This one is stereo audio. This one is stereo audio with mic, with recording action. So, just in case you're asked that on the test, guys, the pointy end is the tip, that one, and the one all the way in the back is the sleeve. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question, guys. Which communication method is used for short range distances at 10 meters? Give you guys a few seconds to answer the question. Pause the video. Okay, if you chose Bluetooth, you are correct. I put LAN and WAN here. I didn't go over this yet. Don't worry about that. We're going to talk about it later. NFC, guys, is point to point. If you remember, that's when you take something and you put it very close to the item. That is point to point. So with Bluetooth, I can have in my AirPods and, I could walk away from my phone 10 meters or so and still hear music. So remember, Bluetooth is 10 meters. But here are the answers, guys. I just told everything on the previous slide. Forgot to hit to the next slide, but there's the answers. So let's go ahead and finally finish mobile devices. Finally, 1.4. Given a scenario, configure basic mobile device network connectivity and application support. All right, so this is all about wireless cellular data network. Enable, disable was in the objectives. I'm not really sure why they put that there, but anyways. So like most computer devices, mobile devices provide more functionality when connected to a network. So that's the same thing with any device that we have. Any device, it always has more functionality when it is connected to a network. So for example, with our phones, if it wasn't connected to a network, what could we do with our phone? We couldn't even text. I mean, we could write down some notes. Sure, we could do that, but we can't really do anything too much. So when devices are connected to a network, they have a lot more functionality. So when connected to the internet, So the internet network, we'll go over this a little more, but just know that this is, this just we're connecting outside of our own network. So we have our own little network inside our house, and as long as we connect outside, to the public, where the public is all kinds of traffic out there. That's the internet. So just think of it like that. But when we're connected to the internet network, cell phones provide even more robust functionality. You can connect your cell phone to two different types of networks. So there are cell phone networks and wireless networks. Keep in mind, because we will talk about it a lot, wireless, keep this number in mind, 802.11. We're going to talk about it in the network section, but you will hear that a lot. 802.11 is wireless. Let's go ahead and talk about what is a network. So in this most basic form, guys, and all a network is when two devices are connected to each other. That's a network. So, hey, I don't know, for all the millennials out there, some of you guys might be too young to remember this, but, back in the school days, we used to have our Game Boys. When we want to play with our friends in the cafeteria on lunchtime, we would connect our Game Boys with a cable. And when we connected our Game Boys with this cable, we could play together, we could do Pokemon battle, whatever it was that we was doing. So that's pretty much, that was a network. You can see that in this example of a network here. It's just two cell phones that's connected to each other. This is a network, guys. And here's another network. We have a cell phone right here, and it's connected to a cell phone tower, which is this. And that cell phone tower is connected to the internet. So the internet could be google.com, whatever you're doing online, guys, not my place to judge. Whatever you do online, that's the internet. Anywhere that's outside of your network. We also have another example of this is like it could be like a router, something like that, a home router. And we have 4 cell phones that's connected to each other through this router. So these 4 cell phones are all connected to the router, and these cell phones can all talk to each other. The router might connect to the internet as well. There's a little cloud. It might connect to the internet as well, and the cell phones can, through this access the internet. But the key point is the cell phones are able to talk to each other when connected to this router. All right, so let's talk about cellular networks, guys. So cell phones use cellular networks for connectivity. Now, if you really think about it, it really is just a network. It's literally, not literally, but it's very similar to me connecting to my router, for example. In this example, we subscribe to a cell phone provider, like AT&T, for example, or Verizon, T-Mobile. And when we subscribe, we're able to connect to their cell towers, but we don't have to put in any passwords or anything like that, but we can connect to their cell phone towers. We have that access. So as you can see in this diagram here, cell phones, guys, are split up into sections, and the antenna are placed strategically in each section. This way, users can go from one tower to the next without disconnecting, or if they disconnect or they lose service, it's very minimal. So let me give an example here. Let's say, hey, don't make fun of my drawing, guys. I know this is ugly as heck, but hey, I'm trying to draw an example here, guys. Let's just say we have somebody driving in the car. I'm not gonna try to draw a car, guys. There's a person, they have a cell phone. All right, so let's say we have a person in the car, they're driving, they have a cell phone, and they're like, they are here, guys, okay? And they're just leaving this cell tower. So it wants to be placed in a way so where they leave this tower right here, they can easily just switch over to this tower. So that's pretty much what I mean. This is very useful when, you know, people are traveling and whatnot. These cell phone towers, cellular networks, however, are slower than Wi-Fi 802.11. Wi-Fi is 802.11. Remember that, guys. Cellular towers also use different frequencies. So I'm not sure if this is going to be on a test, guys, but just you can keep this in mind. Lower frequencies allow coverage over a larger area, whereas higher frequencies provide coverage over a smaller area. So it's just like, you know, a sound wave. You know, if it's the deeper it is, you know, the lower the frequency, the farther it travels. So it's kind of the same thing. And frequencies are also separated to prevent them from interfering with one another. So just a quick example, guys. Back in the day, you know, before my IT days, you know, I got my internet connection set up, you know, I was excited. I sat down, played some Gears of War, guys, and it was super slow. You know, I was dying left and right. I was like, man, there's no way I suck this bad, you know? So I called up my ISP, and they did help me out. What they did was told me to change my frequency. So the reason for this is most likely possibility that there was devices in my house that was using the same frequency. So because of this, it was interfering with my wireless connection. You can see it here too, guys. Very simple explanation or example, but you know, we have frequency 1 here, and they're not putting frequency 1 here. They're not going to put it here. Frequency 1 is here, and we also have another frequency 1 that's down here. So it's separated because if it was next to this one, for example, it would interfere with this tower. So that's why they split the frequencies. You can see frequency 2 is here, and there's no other frequency 2 except all the way down here. So it's a very good idea to split the frequencies. That's what they do with cellular towers. Also what we do with, you know, access points, wireless access points, you know, we're gonna separate the frequencies, but that way they don't interfere with each other and, you know, cause problems. All right, so let's talk about 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. So back in my study days, guys, I don't know what was wrong with me, but I was super confused about this. I was like, what is that? You know, what does G even mean, you know? All it is generations. So similar to video game consoles, guys, you know, I'm a gamer, so I'm always going to be making these references. But, you know, we have PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PS3, PS4, PS5. Kind of a similar thing, you know. It's just the next generation of, in this example, cellular networks. So we're currently at 5G, guys. Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about 2G. 2G uses GSM. So GSM stands for Global System for Mobile Communications. 2G also uses CDMA, Code Division Multiple Access, for data and voice services. So we're going to talk about this in the next slide, but just keep in mind, you know, it's simply like protocols for how the cellular wireless network works for cellular. It's how it works. It's like the standard, pretty much just a cellular wireless network, guys. That's pretty much what this is. So what 2G did actually was it took cell phones from analog to digital communication. It brought cellular communication, guys, to a whole new world, man. We weren't ready for this. It provided call and text encryption, and it provided data services such as SMS, picture messaging, and multimedia messaging. So without 2G, guys, if we were still on 1G, we would just be texting words, you know, just text, you know, the boring stuff. You know, that's a thing of the past now. So let's talk about what's CDMA and GSM. So like I said, it's pretty much just a wireless network for transmitting data across devices. So different carriers use different standards. AT&T and T-Mobile use GSM, and Verizon uses CDMA. So there are differences between these. It's a very good idea to, you know, keep these in mind, guys, because you might be asked about this on the tests. Very safe to say you might be asked a question about this. Sorry, I'm getting a text message. All right, so let's talk about GSM and CDMA. So we already know what a SIM card is. So a SIM card, guys, it means subscriber identity module. It's a card that's placed inside of your cell phone. If you have AT&T or T-Mobile, you know what I'm talking about. You know, we gotta take out the SIM card sometimes, put it in the other phone, whatever they want us to do. But this SIM card allows us to move configurations from phone to phone. Now, keep in mind, guys, I don't mean configurations like, you know, what apps are downloaded and, you know, all that stuff. I mean like cellular data information, like what your phone number is, you know, your name attached to the number, maybe text that you have, saved text. That's also, you know, could be included in that. So with a SIM card, you can move the data from phone to phone. You know, you don't have to do anything fancy to bring that data back to your new phone. GSM uses TDMA and FDMA. Just keep in mind that DMA stands for division multiple access, and the T stands for time, and the F in FDMA stands for frequency. So they're two separate things. So TDMA, let's talk about what TDMA does. It provides multi-user access by slicing the channel into different time slices. So just think of it like this, guys, you know, pretty much, you know, it just takes turns. So everybody uses the same channel and it's all cut up into different time slots, and whoever came first probably goes first and so on. So that's kind of how it works. That's how it's separated. FDMA, all it does is separate the frequencies on the channel. So that's the only difference, guys. Just know that FDMA is frequency and TDMA is time. And keep in mind that GSM is accepted worldwide. CDMA, however, is not accepted worldwide. Keep that in mind, guys. CDMA is handset specific, so everything is configured on the mobile device itself. So if you were to get a new phone, you're gonna have to transfer that data manually from one phone to the next. CDMA uses code division multiplexing. So it's kind of a weird thing. Just think of code division multiplexing, CDM, as just kind of like having a name you identify yourself with. That's kind of how users are separated into channels, guys. They're separated by the code that they're assigned. So they're assigned like a code, and that's pretty much how it differentiates who from who. Okay, so let's talk about 3G. Not much to say here. Third generation cellular. 3G did introduce a couple of new features. These included web browsing, video downloading, GPS, and email. So as soon as we got 3G, guys, we were able to do all these things. And 3G is capable of handling speeds around 2 megabits per second. 4G, not too much to say here as well. However, the speeds did jump up a lot. So it jumped up 1 gigabit per second, guys. So speed is from 100 megabits per second to 1 gigabit per second. Pretty quick, pretty fast speeds there. The only thing here, just keep in mind that when you're outside of 4G covered areas, your phones do revert back to 3G. So that's the only thing with 4G to keep in mind. 4G continued. 4G introduced LTE. Pretty much what LTE did, guys, it combined these two standards. Pretty much the point of this is to make switching providers a lot easier. So if I hate AT&T, okay, let me not say that, because, you know, if somebody from AT&T see this video, hey, don't be getting all mad, you know, I'm just giving an example here. But let me just say, if somebody hates one of their carriers, you know, they on the phone, they're like, I'm switching, the carrier's just gonna be like, all right. So it's way easier to switch. Way easier, guys. That's what LTE did. That's pretty much all it does, guys. It stands for long-term evolution, and it's a 4G technology. All right, so 5G. We're currently at 5G. So 5G, super fast, guys. Can reach up to speeds of 100 gigabits per second, which is super fast. It's 1,000 times faster than 4G. and it does provide greater network stability than its predecessors. Very useful for things. We'll probably talk about this later. Internet of Things. This is like IP cameras and all the other computer devices that we really don't talk about too much. You know, we talk about PCs and all that stuff, but we don't talk about the Internet of Thing devices that we use. But we will talk about it. But it's very useful for Internet of Thing devices. Okay, so we talked about hotspots. So pretty much, like I said in my last videos, all a hotspot does is it turns your cell phone, your mobile device, into a wireless network. 802.11, remember 802.11. Other devices in the area, hopefully just yours, but other devices can connect to your cell phone and use the internet. Be careful because this can accrue additional charges. Usually it does. And if you subscribe to it, usually, you know, they probably tell you if it's unlimited or if you have a cap. So let's quickly go over preferred roaming list, PRL. So PRL, guys, the phone remembers which cell towers are the best and that it should use for the current network that it's in. So this is updated over the air. You know, you can just, you know, update it at any time. With Android devices, this is down here, but keep in mind that it does vary in Android devices. However, with iOS, Apple devices, this usually is updated when you perform a software update. So usually you don't see this happen. When roaming, the PRL tells the phone to use the network with the best roaming rate for the carrier. So this doesn't mean the one with the strongest signal. You know, it's a combination of things. So whichever the phone decides is the best, that's the one that's it's gonna use. And this is updated from time to time, like I said. So, you know, the phone can prefer one, you know, tower at one point, then it updates. Then, you know, it's like this tower, it's not that good. Let me use this instead, you know. All right, guys, so let's talk about enabling Bluetooth. Super easy, guys. It's always in the settings. Anything, you know, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, always just go to the settings, guys. Usually with anything, I check settings because it's probably there. But with Android, you want to go to your home screen, menu, settings, connection, Bluetooth. I included some screenshots here so you can see the settings and connection settings. Usually, if this little knob thing here is blue, that means it's on. You know, if it's gray and it's to the left, that probably means it's not turned on. So you're trying to figure out Bluetooth, you're like, this ain't working. You know, this is gray, it's probably off. Once you turn it on, your available devices will show up. All you gotta do is click on it. Super easy, guys. iOS is the same. You know, you go to settings and Bluetooth. Again, you know, we have this knob thing here. If it's green, that means it's good. If it's gray, it's turned off, guys. Also keep in mind, newer versions of iOS, you can scroll down from the lock screen. It has to be on the right side on the Wi-Fi battery cellular service area. So you scroll down on that and you'll see this here. So this is airplane mode. That's your cellular data. This is Wi-Fi. There's Bluetooth, guys, the one that's the red square. So if this is blue, good to go. That means it's on. If it's gray, it means it's off. Anything gray, guys, ain't good, you know. If it's gray, it's not good sign, guys. Bluetooth continued. So keep in mind that each device has its own instructions for pairing. So generally, you just power on the device and, you know, you click on it on your iPhone or Android, whatever you have, and see if it pairs. That's usually what you have to do. But in some cases, there might be additional steps. You might have to enter a PIN. Usually the PIN is 0000. But of course, with anything, remember this, guys, with devices that are from different manufacturers, you know, headsets, mice, keyboards, you want to check the manual. You know, you'll be asked about that on the test. Okay, I'm not gonna promise because I haven't taken the test in probably 3 years, but really keep in mind that you want to check the manual at all times. If you don't know, and the manual is available, check the manual because it's going to have the answers. I'm not trying to give you answers to the test, but it should be obvious that, you know, if check the manual is there and you're trying to figure out how to do something with a device, you know, that's probably what you should be doing. You know, you're checking the manual. But these are pretty much the steps, guys, of pairing a device, setting it up. Super easy. I'm sure we've all done it. You know, take a minute to read this here, guys. But keep in mind that, you know, once it's all complete, you want to test the communication. So if you have headphones or anything like that, you know, try playing some sound or music, see if it works. If it doesn't work, what should you do, guys, if it doesn't work, you know? Maybe you missed something, you know, quiz time, what should you do? Bam, check the manual. Told you, check the manual, guys. The manual will have the answers. Even in IT, you know, I've checked the manual, looked online, boom, found the answer. All right, so let's talk about GPS. GPS, we know what that is. It helps us find things, helps us find restaurants and all that good stuff. You know, GPS stands for Global Positioning System. Uses satellite information to plot the global location of an object. Integrates into most mobile devices. So what this means is usually it's already there. We don't have to download an app. We don't have to get somebody to open our cell phone up and do stuff to it. Usually it already works. You can just open maps and say pizza near me, find pizza. Not only can GPS systems plot routes, it can also help us find restaurants, shops, and other areas of interest, like I said. And very useful also for tracking vehicles. So, you know, if you're out there committing crimes, guys, and they see your license plate on camera, they're going to find your car. They're going to track your car, guys. So, you know, you can stop committing those crimes if that's what you're doing, man. You know, do IT way better. You know, make a lot of money. No need to do all this other stuff, you know. So let's talk about cellular location services. So I'm sure we've seen this message pop up, guys, right here. We've seen, like, you know, turn on location services, allow this app to use location services. You know, all it does is it wants to see where you are, you know, either to help you, you know, you're going to search pizza. It might want to see, you know, show you pizza places nearby, or, you know, it can do some advertisements as well. Usually it's off by default. You can enable location services for each app independently. So that's why it's asking. If you never enabled it, but you're being tracked, I mean, you might want to look and see what's going on because your device might have been hacked. Just a little thing to keep in mind, guys, because, you know, if your cell phone's always running hot, your battery is dying super quick, you never enable location services, but you're being tracked, one of the apps you downloaded might be a virus. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about MDM. So MDM is very simple. I was confused about it, but it's because, you know, we don't know how it works. We never worked in IT, you know. We don't know how these software systems work. So MDM stands for Mobile Device Management. There's also MAM, which stands for Mobile Application Management. It kind of is the same thing, except MAM is usually used for bring your own devices. And we'll talk about that. But, you know, with these tools, guys, you can manage company-owned devices or your user devices. So all this is, trust me, it's just software, guys. And you install the software on each phone, and then you might have a master server somewhere. And then what you would do is on your IT computer, you might download like the management software version of it. So there's the version of the software that's installed on the phones to track it, and, you know, it has all the information, collects all the data. You might have a server, database server, something like that to store the information, or maybe it's in the cloud as well. There's a lot of software that it's just in the cloud. The data is stored in the cloud. You don't have to worry about building anything. And then on your computer, you're the IT person, your computer, you install software to where, in this case, as you can see in this screenshot, you can see the devices. You can click this tab, see everything. You can see that you have 40,000 devices. Dang, that's a lot of devices. You can go to utilities. You can remote control into the device. So you can click this, guys, and then you can remotely connect to any device that's here. You can do anything here, guys. You can set up enrollment configurations. In utilities, you might be able to, for example, if somebody forgets their PIN or phone passcode, you might be able to delete that passcode and help them set it up again. So that's the beauty of these software tools, guys. So like I said, for corporate devices, usually you manage everything about the phone. You manage the configuration, you manage the security, you manage everything. For user devices, however, you don't want to be messing around with the configuration and security of that device. That's their own cell phone. So usually it's just gonna manage the data and applications on that device. Also keep in mind though that it might require that you have a PIN. So if you don't have a PIN on your phone, you probably can't use your own device. So policies are usually implemented with this software, MDM software, but can also be created in an Active Directory. Usually it's created in this software, guys. Like I pointed out here, enrollment configurations in this example, you can probably set all kinds of cool configurations, for the phones. Like I said, you can force policies such as screen locks, pins on user devices, as well as two-factor authentication. We will talk about that. Very, very important. Very easy, by the way, but very important, guys. If you're into security, you want to get that Security Plus, you will remember this. It will be very helpful for Security Plus, but we will talk about that later. And last but not least, guys, if the device is stolen, the MDM software can be used to wipe the stolen device remotely. So let's talk about mobile synchronization. So when I talk about mobile synchronization, guys, all I'm talking about is syncing your data to the cloud. So what is the cloud? The cloud is not a cloud in the sky, that's not where your data is. But the cloud is just servers somewhere that's accessible over the internet that has all your data. So we don't know where it is, but it's just servers somewhere out there. By syncing your data, you can see and access your data on multiple devices. So example, phone and computer, iOS, you can sync all your data to iCloud, and then I could get on my computer, download iTunes, maybe I have a Mac computer, and I can also see my data on my computer as well. So I'm sure we're all familiar with data caps. If we go over, for example, 15 gigabytes worth of data, we're outside, we got to be at the beach, we could be playing games on our phone, looking on the internet, outside chilling. We're not connected to wireless, we're connected to the cell phone tower. If your plan has a cap, then if you keep doing that, you're gonna eventually, go over your cap if you're not careful. So that's what a data cap is. Usually with data caps, you either pay extra when you go over. Like when I had one a long time ago, man, I used to always go over my data, and then I would get charged $15 every single time. So, when you go over your data, you probably get charged extra, but it can also just block you from using data at all. So, you might just not be able to use your phone except when you're connected to Wi-Fi. So the cell phones usually do have an option to block app downloads. So you can enable or disable various download settings that use cellular data. This can help you to prevent from going over the data cap. So in this case, we have disabled automatic downloads. This is actually disabled by default. So if we enable this, our apps will download automatically no matter what. And as you can probably guess, it's not good because apps can update at any time. And that's going to be using our data. So usually this is disabled by default. If you don't have a cap, it's not really anything to worry about. You can enable it. You can also use these settings to opt to only use 802.11, which is Wi-Fi. Remember that, guys. Using Wi-Fi, keep that in mind, does not use any cellular data. It uses your internet data. Not only does it not use your data, but it is usually faster. Emails on phones, guys. Usually emails on phones all have similar setup, but it's still going to be slightly different depending on the device you have. It can even be different between the phone generations. So keep that in mind. Corporate email configurations also vary. Keep this in mind because you will see it on the test. We will also talk about it more, but to access email accounts, keep this word in mind, access. We're accessing email. To access email accounts, there are two protocols. We'll talk about protocols, but it's POP3 and IMAP. IMAP is better than POP3. That's all you have to remember. POP3 is old. We don't really use that anymore, but IMAP is better. We will talk about it later though, so don't stress too much about that. Most companies, if you ever worked at a company, you probably use Outlook. Most companies do use Microsoft 365 as their email service. They can make their own Exchange server, or if they want, they could just use Microsoft's cloud. Either way is fine. They still have access to email. Usually using cloud is easier. You don't have to set anything up. So Microsoft 365, we can set this up on our phones, guys. Usually this requires a username and password. And usually this is the same as your domain credential. You can also sync other things such as mail. As you can see in this screenshot, look, this person can sync mail, contacts, calendars, and reminders. You can sync all of this to your Outlook mail, guys. So Microsoft 365, of course, you can perform tasks such as receiving email, sending email because it's email, but not only does Microsoft 365 have email, but you can also manage calendars, create documentation, manage files. You can use it for video conferencing. And there's also more you can do with Microsoft 365. Also keep in mind that I'm sure we've heard of Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel. You can use these apps for free on the web, but with a license for Microsoft 365, you can download an app, but you have to have the correct license to do this. Google Workspace is very similar to Microsoft 365, guys. It can perform the same tasks as Office 365, send email, manage calendars, that sort of thing. The one difference is it does not have the desktop applications. We talked a little bit about iCloud. iCloud is only available on Apple devices because iCloud is Apple. This will use your iCloud account. All you got to do is create an account, guys, and you're all set. Most of us, if we have an iPhone, we download apps, we have to have an account to do that. But as you can see here with iCloud, you have a lot of synchronization options, guys. Remember, when I say synchronization, all I'm talking about is syncing data to the cloud so that you can access it on multiple devices. So your phone and the computer, for example. But as you can see here, in this case, look at all these apps using iCloud that I can sync and see elsewhere. I can see fitness information. I can see all this stuff, guys. Okay, so for all you security guys out there, very, very, very important information here. Very important information. This will be on your Security Plus, so if you're interested in passing that, you might want to listen to two-factor authentication. Just to know that there are 3 authentication factors. The first authentication factor is something you know. So, for example, a password. I know my password. Actually, maybe you don't know your password, but you saved your password somewhere, and you can, check it. But it's still something guys. The second factor is something you are. So for example, like a fingerprint, even a retina scan, guys. You've seen in those movies, they need access to a super secure environment. They scan their eyeball. That is something you are. So whatever is physical on you, it could be even a face scan. And the last thing is something you have. So for example, a smart card, or even a phone, for example, because there are applications that you can download that it will give you like a one-time password, or it will require you to click and confirm that it is actually you. So those are the 3 authentication factors. All 2-factor authentication is, guys, it's just you have to use 2 of these out of the 3. You cannot use 2 of the same one. That doesn't count as 2-factor authentication. So you can't use 2 passwords. You can't use a password and a PIN because they're both something you know. You can't use a fingerprint and a face scan because it's both something you are. You can't use 2 of something you have. The reason why this is so important is because if the bad guy gets one of these, they try to access your account, they still can't access because they don't have the other one. So very important, especially in large companies, they want to protect their data. They will opt to use 2-factor authentication, and you will be required to use 2-factor authentication. I'm sure some of us are already familiar with that though. So like I've mentioned before, some 2-factor applications require a one-time password, OTP. So what is a one-time password? I will attach a screenshot, but pretty much, a one-time password, there's a password on your app. So for example, with Google Authenticator, guys, there's this passwords. I will attach a screenshot, but there's a random set of numbers. I think it's like 6 numbers. It changes like every 30 seconds. It's going to ask you to enter that one-time password to log in. You enter it. Keep in mind that when you're at a company, you're going to be required to use applications. You're going to have to stay up to business standards and do all kinds of stuff for businesses. So you will use applications. Corporate applications is important because they're going to come from both trusted and untrusted sources. This is kind of like when we download things on our own computers. We might trust, for example, video game company like, Rockstar Games, download Grand Theft Auto, play it. We might download some stuff from Google, stuff like that. They're a trusted company. We might also download from untrusted sources. For example, in one of my previous videos, I downloaded a tool to a virtual machine that can do a DOS attack. So that came from an untrusted source. In this example, Google is a trusted source. Obviously, we all trust Google. We use Google every day, most likely, at least once a day, guys. Businesses may have their own trusted and untrusted sources. So you might trust TikTok, but the company, might not trust TikTok. So they might block TikTok downloads. They might leave it up to you to not download TikTok, for example. So sometimes they may block, sometimes they may not. But as always, it's up to the user to approach downloading applications the same way we would do at home. Should I download this? I don't really trust them. Looks fishy. Probably won't download. Anyways, that was the last slide, guys. I just want to take the time to really thank you guys for, anybody that comments, like the video. That does really help keep me going, guys. And I'm glad, if my videos help you out, really makes me feel good. Hopefully, you learned a lot from my courses. But thank you for watching like always. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace, guys.